Air is a block used to represent unoccupied spaces. It can only be destroyed or created by the placement or removal of other blocks. That is the definition of air as per Minecraft's wiki. Even a game which can be anything seems to struggle with the concept of nothing. Just take a look at some of the game's past patch notes. Air is now internally a block and can be kept in the inventory. It has a missing texture. Air cannot be kept in the inventory anymore, but is internally still handled as a block. The game cannot decide whether air exists or not, but clearly it plays an important role in the game. However, here on Earth, we know that air is not a nothing. It is composed of a something. The density of air at sea level starts at around this much. As you go higher and higher, up and up, the density decreases more and more until you reach something which could be an actual nothing, and that is outer space. Thing is, it's tempting to say that outer space is empty. Density does not really reach zero even in outer space. The space between our planets, the interplanetary space, still has a density. Now at this point you're not really talking about kilograms per cubic meter or even grams or micrograms. You're talking about how many particles there are per cubic meter. The space between our planets can vary between 5 to 100 particles per cubic meter. The space between star systems, that's not really empty, and it itself can have a density that varies by several orders of magnitude, from trillions of particles per cubic meter to few ionized particles per cubic meter. The space between galaxies, that's not empty either. But maybe we are looking at this the wrong way. What about the space that ordinary matter stuff exists in? On Earth, space is there. There is much more ordinary matter than there is in outer space, and that makes the density higher than outer space. What you're looking for here is a perfect vacuum, a volume of space that contains no ordinary matter particles. As I've shown you, this is a very difficult thing to find. On Earth, we can attempt to simulate it, but even our best attempts can only do something like hundreds of millions of particles per cubic meter. Outer space is actually a much better vacuum. But even if you found the perfect vacuum, it's not necessarily empty of other types of some things. If you measure certain aspects of the way galaxies function, you're going to notice something strange. Galaxies are holding themselves together, but they shouldn't be. They seem to have much more gravitational influence than the gravitational influence they should have. Something is adding more gravitational influence, and at this point in time, it is hypothesized to be an unobserved form of matter called dark matter. In fact, measurements indicate that dark matter should be here in the universe at quantities at least 5 times more than that of ordinary matter. Astronomers have not been able to observe it directly yet. They're getting really, really close, but until then, all that can be said is that there does seem to be this something that is close to ordinary matter, which we can't see, at least not yet. However, there is something much more terrifying than dark matter, and it seems to be here in quantities that are much larger than both dark matter and ordinary matter combined. Let's take the space between my hands. Let's remove all types of matter from it until there is nothing left. Even without matter, virtual particles pop in and out of existence in space, creating fluctuations. These fluctuations might be giving space intrinsic energy that is uniformly spread everywhere. This energy is called vacuum energy. When physicists attempted to see how much energy this would give empty space, something went horribly wrong. When they took something called the cosmological constant in mind, this energy turned out to be about this many joules per cubic meter. But when they took this stuff in mind, the number came out to be 10 to the power of 120 times larger than the first number. This is referred to as the vacuum catastrophe and is an outstanding problem that has not really been answered yet. Either way, however, it seems space itself has its own unexplained energy. In fact, dark energy, which is a term that's been given to whatever it is that's causing space itself to expand, might be emanating from this energy that is inherent in space itself. And dark energy seems to be here at much larger quantities than both dark matter and ordinary matter. There's also a fact going around that an atom is mostly empty space, 99.999%, whatever it is, empty space. Thing is, it's a bit more complicated than that. An electron isn't like a planet orbiting a star, with the star being the nucleus. An electron is more like a cloud that exists everywhere that it can exist in. You just can't pinpoint with 100% certainty where it is. For example, this illustration shows you various clouds of an electron attached to a hydrogen atom at various energy levels. The brighter the area, the more likely you would find the electron there. You can't really call this cloud empty space in the usual sense. You see, fundamental particles, they have the properties that they have because they have varying levels of interaction with different quantum fields, such as the recently discovered Higgs field. And fields like the Higgs field are thought to be some things which exist everywhere in the universe. And since they exist everywhere, where does nothing even begin? As you can see, it is very difficult to find nothing. Every time you think you found nothing, it turns out to be something that is embedded into another nothing. If you check that nothing, it turns out to be it's a something that is embedded into another nothing. And the example that I mentioned in the beginning part of the video, air, which is the nothing in the Minecraft game, is actually something that exists because of the way the game has been programmed, and the programming code that was used to make Minecraft is embedded into something else. Yes, I've used this argument before, but it still stands in this case. Where does nothing begin? But what about this? At the very early stages of the universe, it is thought that the dimensions of space and time, as well as the fundamental forces, were all bunched up into this single state. Is whatever outside this state a nothing? You can't really call it outside because space itself is in a single state, and you can't really call it very early stages of the universe because time is also in that state. Now, let me be clear here. This state only exists if you take Einstein's theory of general relativity and reverse its predictions about the evolution of the universe. You would end up with that state where everything is bunched up into a single state. It's not really a point. You can't call it a point. The dimensions themselves are in that state. But basically, there might be other models in the future that would explain this state in a better way, and it might be embedded into something, nothing else. You get the idea. This particular point is actually debated at a particular point in this session hosted by Neil deGrasse Tyson, which I recommend that you watch if you are interested in the concept of nothing. Until we have a theory of everything, it's very difficult to really say if there is a nothing. What do you think? Is there a nothing? And if there is a nothing, where is it? Thank you very much, and I will see you next time.